It's easy for atheists like myself to lose sight of the many reasonable Christians in the world. Those who don't want to exterminate our gay and trans neighbours, or who see no reason to spread divisive hatred throughout the land. But they do exist, as a certain American bishop demonstrated so ably a few days ago. Bishop Marianne Edgar Budde spoke truth to power in no uncertain terms, and in so doing, she reminded this atheist of the compassionate stance I thought Christianity represented in those heady days of my youth. I no longer believe, and to be honest, I'd be very surprised if I ever will again. But at least I can applaud Bishop Budde's values, if not her beliefs. But when the atheists are backing the bishop that speaks like Jesus and the Christians want her hanged, you know something's up. Unfortunately, however, her brand of Christianity seems to be losing, as those who prefer to propagate the vengeance of God gain ground. We should never underestimate the danger of large groups of conservative Christians. So I thought I'd have a little look around Facebook and see how much support the good bishop received from her sermon, and perhaps more importantly, where it came from. I did find several Christians who supported Bishop Budde, but unsurprisingly from my perspective, the majority of her supporters were atheists like myself. We tend to share the values of compassion, empathy and tolerance that Bishop Budde represents far more than most Christians I've come into contact with, and definitely more than the MAGA crowd. Their brand of Christian nationalist is not only counter-constitutional for Americans, it's downright toxic. But don't just take my word for it. See for yourself. Here are just a few of the screenshots I collected from Christians on Facebook. She is not a Christian pastor. She is a current homosexual. She is a Christian pastor the same as Freddy Krueger is a Disney princess. A true Christian condemns homosexuality, not lives it. Now bear in mind that Bishop Budde has been married for 28 years and has 2 children. There is no evidence at all to suggest that she's gay. Not that these people need evidence where their prejudicial, bigoted mindset is concerned. A lesbian preaching woke lies is not a Christian message. It gets better. How disgusting she is. First, she shouldn't be in that position. Second, as a woman of God who asks a man of God to turn away from God. Third, she's kind of done now. And of course, let's not forget the sexism straight out of 1 Timothy. It's worth remembering that the 2 Timothy epistles are generally considered by biblical scholars to be pseudonymous texts, otherwise known as later forgeries. It begins with childish comments about appearance. She looks like a man, before denying her faith and her right to hold clerical office. Biblically, she's not a bishop, nor a Christian. Relying upon the forgery of 1 Timothy, of course. But I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over the man, but to be in silence. 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 12. And then we get this remarkably silly little meme. This is a bishop. This is not a bishop. There are literally hundreds of comments like these from Christians, not just in America, but across the world. And it's not just an in-house issue for Christians to deal with. These toxic Christians are gaining ground and turning their vile hatred outward, as well as attacking their own. Amen. It's time for woke to go to prison. I hope all the Democrats get what they deserve, but God is the judge, and he always judges rightly. Such love for their fellow men. One Republican senator even suggested that she should be deported, presumably back to New Jersey, her birthplace. Perhaps someone should buy the good senator a map, since he doesn't seem to understand American geography or American citizenship. The American constitutional right to free speech seems to have passed him by as well. Still, that's what happens when you elect fascists. You lose your rights pretty damn quickly. The person giving this sermon should be added to the deportation list. If you read the Bible at all, you would realize that this bishop was not teaching biblical teachings at all. She was spouting woke propaganda that actually opposes Christian teachings. The fact is that I know a lot about the Bible, and she obviously knows very little about it. This one thinks that Bishop Budde wasn't teaching biblical teachings at all. But as she said, I'm not going to apologize for asking for mercy for others. So just to be sure, let's see what she actually said, shall we? I'll put a link to her sermon in the description. Let me know in the comments if you think this brave cleric deserves to be hanged or deported for preaching about compassion and mercy. As the Reverend Benjamin Kremer said, if your Christianity causes you to be offended by someone asking the most powerful person in the country to be merciful toward the powerless, then you have profoundly misunderstood the teachings of Christ.